Okay, we are with this SBR Strategic Business Reporting preparation for September session. A very interesting paper and very important paper. Not very important actually, in my opinion, this is the most important paper. This is about IFRS. I have given my life, you call it blood and sweat, to IFRS for the last 20, 25 years, even more. See, let me tell you the importance or significance of this subject. I'll come to many of you people know the basics, what is SBR and exam structure and style. A lot of things are going to be repetitive. So I will come to that thing, which is like very typical style of introducing the subject. But before that, let me tell you my opinion about this subject. I'll start with you. I just take 2 minutes to tell you the importance. You know, when it was 1999 and it was the end of that millennium, 1,000 years millennium was finishing. So at that time, internet and Google, these things were not there. And we used to read journals and magazines like Time magazine was there, Economist and Newsweek. These were the three we used to read very rigorously. And among these, the best quality or the content was Time. Newsweek was a little bit down, and then Economist had a different focus. So I remember that in December 1999, when this issue came, and it was the last issue of the millennium, because then it was coming 2000 year. So 1999, December. I still remember that the edition of December 1999, Time magazine, when you opened it up, the first page was editorial. So this is an editorial. So the editor writes down his message. And the editorial said, there was a big heading. It was written in bold, and I still remember. It says that, and it was the editor of the Time magazine who was writing it. And he says that if I divide the humanity into two halves, I divide the humanity into two halves. On one side, it is Einstein, and on the other side, it is rest of the humanity or rest of the world. So he said that Einstein is on one side and everything else is on the other side. Now, this is because Einstein was the figure of 20th century, and this was a way of paying tribute to Einstein. And I like this thing a lot. That was a tribute that person deserved. Now, if I just, contemplate with this, our ACCA qualification. So I say that if I divide ACCA qualification into two parts, SBR is on one side and everything else is on the other side. This is the importance of this subject to begin with. Your objective is not or should not be just to pass with 50 marks, because out of all of your qualification papers which you will be doing in ACCA qualification, the one paper which would help you to really grow in your career, which would bring you a lot of opportunities will be SBR alone. Even if you do not know, if you are not even qualified ACCA, but you raise your hands and you say, I know IFRS, then you are the person we need. Please come in. You need to know IFRS and you are standing out of everyone, okay? So it is so important. I have built up my entire career on the knowledge of IFRS. And not only in terms of my professional career or my abilities or whatever satisfaction you say, if you want to translate it to financially or monetarily, I can say that my knowledge or subject of IFRS, or my one course of IFRS, one paper of IFRS, or my one job consulting assignment of IFRS, it gives me many, many, many times more than everything else which I do. So remember that knowing IFRS, which means that knowing SBR, knowing IFRS, becoming a master in IFRS, it is not just about passing a paper. This is something, if you are in accounting and finance profession, you are going to depend on this knowledge for the next 20 years. And it is like an ocean. What SBR, what we are going to do with IFRS, it is just like a droplet from that huge ocean, which is just the beginning, okay? So consider it that all of your entire ACCA is on one side, SBR alone is on one side. All of us, we either work in industry or we work in audit firm. If you work in audit firm, you have to audit financial statements which have been prepared based on IFRS. So knowledge of IFRS is essential for auditors for sure. If you work in industry, you work in accounting and finance department. In accounting finance department, what happens that you have got financial reporting department, budgeting and costing department, and tax accounting. You have 30 people in your accounting department. Out of 30 people, there are 2 guys who are in tax accounting. There are 4 guys who are in costing and budgeting, and the remaining 24, 25 people are in financial accounting and reporting. And financial accounting and reporting means IFRS. And if you want to become a finance manager and then you want to become the CFO, I have never seen a person working as a CFO coming from the tax background or coming from the costing and budgeting thing. Costing and budgeting people, they cannot or they do not go to the position of CFO. This is the IFRS guy who will go and rise to that career of becoming a CFO. If you are a student, as soon as you will complete your qualification, you will start looking for job. And in your job interviews, of course, you are going to appear a job interview in accounting and finance department. They will not ask you questions from physics or chemistry. Most of the questions will come from financial reporting and from SBR level. They are not going to ask you, tell us the double entry of how to record bad debt allowance. No, they are not going to ask you some questions from F3 or F7 level. They will be asking you questions from the last qualification you have done, which is SBR level. If you are not a student, but you are already working, at certain position in some organization. Of course, you are working in a financial accounting department. I'm sure you are not working in HR, you're working in accounting department. And to work in accounting department and to stand out there and to excel and to exceed and to progress in your career, you need IFRS knowledge. And you need to have a very good IFRS knowledge. This is something which will actually give you or make you or convert you from an ordinary to an extraordinary person. Okay, we don't want to become ordinary. We want to become extraordinary. And to become extraordinary, you have to do something extra. Okay, so this is, in my opinion, the most important paper. Objective is not to just pass with 51% or 50%. Anyone could pass or should pass with some effort. 50% is not the mark which should look like a challenge. If in any case, if any knowledge area, if you cannot score 50%, then you should think twice, what are you doing? So at least 50% is guaranteed. 50% is not something we are looking at, or we should call it our achievement. Achievement is that you are going 70 plus, 65 plus, 75 plus, and you say, oh, I know the subject. I am the IFRS guy, okay? Now, this is the subject background. Coming back to your exam in September, I know you guys have very little time. It's almost like 10 or 11 weeks. And IFRS and SBR, it's a long paper. It has a lengthy syllabus and you have to cover a lot of things. What I would try, I keep on changing my course curriculum. You have seen my SBR course page. All of you people have access to that. And I very frequently keep on adding on removing content, because I don't want you to overload with extra content, unnecessary content. When I feel that there are 2 questions, question number 28, question number 29, I've got videos, and I've got question number 30. I've got video for this, video for this, video for this, but they are so similar to each other. You watch this thing for 45 minutes. And then you start watching this video number 29. This again is for 45 minutes. And you think that maybe there is something new. You are waiting for something new will happen, but it is the same as 28. So while after finishing lecture number 29, you realize that you did not learn anything new. You just repeated 28 again. So I just remove it from there. As soon as I feel that this is something which does, this additional video lecture does not bring you something new or something different, I just remove it because repetition is no purpose. If you ask me, I can give you 300 hours of videos. You can spend your 12 months with this. You can live with this every morning till evening, 300 hours. I don't want to do that. I've got a lot of content, but I'm not giving to you. What video content I'm giving you, this is approximately 70 hours, which includes the lecture videos, which includes the question videos, which are most relevant to exams in 2024 and so on. So I don't want to share with you because ACCA is changing its approach very quickly, very fast. Okay, the style of questions which come now, they are very different from the style of questions which were appearing in 2019. So I don't want to give you content from 2018, 2017, or 19, which is irrelevant. Yeah, if it is relevant, I will share. If it is not relevant, I do not share. Now, very important thing is that because I said that it's a challenging exam and it's a very it has a very broad scope, many IFRS standards, and of course, different depth of each standards. And time is always, time is always less. So there is a challenge to, it's not something very complex topic. IFRS is never about some advanced physics or advanced chemistry or applied mathematics or, some nuclear physics. It's not difficult. It's easy. The only thing is that it is too much knowledge. What to do with that? And I will tell you. Number one, like I said, that I remove the extra content. And number two, I will explain you in a little while that how to manage this huge syllabus. We've got some ideas on that. Another question is that how much time is needed to prepare for this thing? Remember, you have to spend on SBR approximately 150 to 160 hours. Some people, they might need a little bit more than 160, maybe plus 10. And some people will require less than 150, maybe minus 10. It will depend on, number one, how much knowledge do you have about financial reporting from past, like from paper FR, F7. So if you were good in F7 and if you still remember topics from F7, it will help you in preparing for F7. So for SBR, so you will spend less time. Maybe you are actually working very actively in some accounting department or working as an auditor. So you have good knowledge. So you will spend less time. But there are some people who have probably forgotten some knowledge from F7 or who are not really good in financial reporting. So they would be looking for more time. In general, we can say that let's call it like 150 hours for the sake of simplicity. And if we divide it with 10 weeks, which we have, it is 15 hours per week. All you need to do, you need to make a good study plan. You have to be disciplined and consistently follow the plan. I don't ask you to work every day because working people cannot study every day. It's impossible. It's not realistic because sometimes we have tough days. Sometimes we have commitments at home with family. So we cannot study every day. But at least you should be studying 4 to 5 days in a week, and you should be giving 15 hours in total. If you give me 15 hours every week, I assure you that at least you will be passing the exam, okay? Watch all the video content. When I say 150 hours, what does that mean? Where this number comes from? This 150 hours, it comes from 70 hours of video content, which includes the lecture videos and the question videos, all type of videos, 70 hours, okay? Then you have to spend something like 25 to 30 hours on reading. Reading is very important because reading improves your writing skills, okay? If you want to write, you have to read. If you want to write good, you have to read. Because when you read and read and read, you absorb that professional vocabulary, you build up that vocabulary, you build up that style of writing. So it's not possible for someone to write good without reading good. So reading is important. Now, where do you read from? One option is that you read from your BPP study text, which I recommend, which I use. And I recommend if you have a lot of time, but BPP study text is something like 600 to 700 pages. And of course, that requires a lot of effort. I say, don't read the study text from BBP. You should read my notes. That should be enough. These notes I have been made very carefully, and I have, very good comments about these notes from people who have read them. They have gone to exam, and these notes will help you a lot, a lot. Of course, I have made notes for other subjects as well, but I know that my SBR notes are the best output. Okay. Study text is important, but it is important when you do not have video lectures. And if your only source of knowledge is book, then of course you have to read the book 700 pages. But because you have access to my video lectures and you already have watched the topic where I explained everything. So when you go back to the book, in the book, you will find the same things. I mean, I'm speaking the same topic, book is speaking the same topic. It is just like first you read the newspaper, then you watch news on the TV. It's the same thing. So no need to spend your so much time on reading the book. Read notes, it should be enough, I can assure you. So that makes you something like 95, 90 to 100 hours, because some people will actually take a little bit more time here, repeat some videos. Some people can play them 1.5x speed. They can become fast. I know there are some students are very smart, and I speak slow. When I teach, I speak slow. So many people, I know that many of my students, they listen me at 1.5x speed. So you can save time if you wish to. Anyways, this is your video lectures. This is your reading. And these two things, I call them as the learning phase. This is the learning phase. Unfortunately, you know that ACCA pass rates are about 50%. They are about 50% in most exam papers, including SBR, which means that if 10 people go to exam, 5 will pass and 5 will fail. Those 5 who fail actually are those people who really wanted to fail. Otherwise, there is no point to fail in exam. Because people do not understand, what is the proper method or approach of doing it. A lot of people, they think that if they watch the video lectures and they do the reading and then a little bit of practice before exam, they think they are passing the exam. No, you cannot, because this phase, I call it learning phase. And the second is exam preparation phase. Okay, exam preparation phase. This is a different thing. And in exam preparation, what you need to do the assignments, which we have as part of our exam preparation. There will be 5 or 6 assignments. You should submit all of the assignments. There are progress tests, which you have to do. And of course, you need to do practice on your own. So minimum 30 hours you should allocate to your doing practicing questions. Maybe 30, maybe 40. There is no possibility of passing the exam if you do not do 30 hours of practice. So 30, 40 hours of practice, maybe 10, 20 hours of assignments and tests. This is what is called preparation. A lot of students, they actually do not pay attention to this part. They spend a lot of time. It is 10 days to exam. And I ask you that, okay, who is here? Let me ask one person, the name. Okay, Arya is here, Bevan is here, Emmanuel is here. Okay, I ask you, Emmanuel, what are you doing? It is 10 days from exam. Emmanuel says, sir, I'm studying. What are you studying? I'm watching your videos. Yeah, don't you have anything better to do in life except watching my videos? Watching my videos will not take you anywhere. Watching my videos, you will only gain the knowledge. You need to know how to apply the knowledge. And application of knowledge is called exam preparation, okay? So if you see that, I said 150 hours, maybe 160 hours, I put 90 hours here to 95 hours here, and remaining 55 to 60 hours here. And I know that those people, when you say that 50% is the pass rate, 5 people passed, 5 people failed, you know those 5 people who failed, they actually, I would not say that they did not study. They did study. You ask them, they say, you know what, I actually watched all of the video lectures, I completed my book, I did some practice, but I think that practice was less. When people, they come out of exam, and those people who would say that my exam was not good, and if you ask them what happened, and almost 90% of them will say, you know what, next time I will do more practice and then go to exam. This is the same comment hundreds of students are making every 3 months. And another hundreds or thousands of students are listening, but then they go to exam making the same mistake. Please pay attention. There are two parts of exam preparation, learning and preparation. Learning is stage 1. Exam preparation is stage 2. Exam preparation, it includes doing assignments, taking progress tests, taking mock exam, doing a lot of practice questions yourself. Two biggest challenges you face in exam. One is the time management. A lot of people will come out of this exam and they say, you know what, we didn't have enough time. Why did you not have enough time? Many people completed. You did not have enough time because of lack of practice. Remember, you want to become fast in something, you have to repeat that task. You have to do that task more. So lack of practice actually will lead to your lack of time scenario. Because in exam, what happens? You read the question one time, you do not understand, or you understand partially, then you read it again, and you are wasting time. ACCA does not give you time for reading it 3 times. ACCA assumes that you will read it once and you should understand. Now, I cannot say that somebody comes in, oh, you know what, I need to read 4 times before I understand. I need to read 5 times before I understand. It does not work. I've given you a content which is 120 words or maybe 200 words of scenario, and I expect 200 word scenario can be read in 6-7 minutes. That's all. So you have to spend. And this is where the lack of practice and the abundance of practice comes up. So if you do more questions, you become faster and your time management issue will be resolved. Okay. This is one thing. Another reason why time management. So one is lack of practice, and one is that you actually I call it practice. I don't call it, I'm just trying to figure out what to call it. Practice to be slow, to become slow. That's very interesting name. Practice to become slow. You know what happens? You know that in exam, you've got 180 minutes and 100 marks. So it means that you have 1.8 minutes for each mark. So if I have 1.8 minutes for 1 mark, so a 5-mark question multiplied with 1.8, it is something like 9 minutes. More or less, maybe you can take 8 or 10, but on average, it should be 8 to 10 minutes. You should give answer. A 5-mark question can be solved in 9 minutes. Now, what happens? When I say ask you, go and do practice in 40 hours. You say, Mr. Ali, thank you very much. You gave me a good idea. I should start doing practice from today, and I will do practice questions every day. Until here, it is okay. But then what you do, you do not have this thing with you. You do not keep this thing with you. If you do not keep a watch with you, so what you are doing, you are practicing to become slow. So you pick up a question and you start doing it. A minute later, you pick up your phone, you see something, then a minute later, somebody comes and knocks your door. Maybe you think something and you are reading the question, doing the question, but your mind goes somewhere. You do not try to finish it in 9 minutes at home. What you do, you did 10 questions. I asked you to do 20 questions. I gave you a list of 20 questions and you did. But this question you were doing at 15 minutes at home. Another question, which is for 10 marks, which should be done in 18 to 20 minutes, you are doing it in 30 minutes at home. So you are actually training yourself, training your mind to do a 5-mark question in 15 minutes. You are just practicing for a marathon, and then you realize that when you go to the ground, it is not a marathon, it is a sprint. You have to run fast, but you never practice to run fast. You always practice to walk slow or to run slow. So this is very big problem which students face, that they do their practice questions, but ultimately what happens, that they become slow because they never put their mind under that pressure. time puts pressure. Okay. So I have to go fast. I have to go fast. I have to go fast. You don't do practice under exam conditions. You do practice under some relaxed conditions. And it is not possible that for 10 weeks or for 3 months, you are practicing in a relaxed mode. And then when you go to exam, suddenly a new person will appear out of you and who is very fast and who will do tak, 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 tak. It will not happen. That behavior which you have practiced for next 10 to 12 weeks, the same behavior you will reflect in exam. So please do a lot of practice, and not only that doing practice, but keep this thing with you. Okay. I have a very traditional one. It has this thing as well. It rings. Okay. So keep something with you, maybe on your mobile phone or your wherever. But when you do practice, I'm not saying that after 10 minutes you should stop writing. Don't stop writing. Continue, complete it. But at least you should have this realization that, I was supposed to do it in 9 or 10 minutes, but I did it in 16 minutes. So when you have this realization, then next time you will try to do it faster. Okay. Okay. So this is about preparation thing. Any question you want to ask until here before I continue? Okay, now let me share with you your course curriculum page, and then we will begin again, okay? So when you come here, this is your SBR course page. Demo lectures, you can just ignore. SBR resources you have here. So first thing you need to do, you need to create your own customized study plan. So when you will open it up, so there's a video I have explained how to create planner, but when you will, if you are a registered student, this link will be open to you. You will pick up the days of the week you want to study: Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, whatever. Mention timing: 2 hours, 4 hours, 3 hours. Mention the type of content you want to cover: lecture videos, question videos, full course, and your beginning date and end date. I want to start from 20th of June and finishing on 20th of August, whatever. And the system will generate one study plan for you. You can download this thing in the PDF format and keep it with you. On your paper, you can keep putting ticks, okay? Although when you will complete one lecture, there is a button called press complete on the lecture. It will show you your progress, that what percentage you have completed. You can also download the Vertex application for this study planner application, and on your mobile phone. And once you download this app on your cell phone, so you will create plan from the desktop version. Mobile phone, you cannot create the planner, but the mobile phone, what will do that it will give you your notifications on daily basis. So it will keep on knocking your mind. Today you have to do, lecture 1, 2, 3, 4 from IFRS 9, for example. So whatever your study plan is, your mobile will tell you your notifications. Coming back to chapter number 1, conceptual framework, ethics, revenue. If you see here a lot, this is very important from my perspective. A lot of people, they think that, okay, this conceptual framework and ethical issues, they don't pay more attention to it. They go straight jump to standards. Let me do IFRS 15. Let me do IFRS 16. No, IFRS 15, 16, 17, everything is actually standing on this conceptual framework. So a very good understanding of conceptual framework will give you a mindset of financial reporting. And if you remember in the beginning, I said that the syllabus is very long and how to cover the syllabus and so on. Let me tell you the importance of this thing. I have given quite a lot of content here, okay? 12 lessons I have put here, because this is something I really want you to go through in detail. Listen, I have been involved with this IAS or IFRS since 1989. And that makes something like, I don't know how many years it is, 11, 24, almost 35 years. So this is where my education started. Okay, I started studying this thing. And then, of course, the time came when I started working. So from 1994 until this 2024, this is the work experience. And it is all about IFRS. How many years? 30 years. So after spending 30 years of working with IFRS, if you ask me that, Mr. Ali, do you know IFRS? I say, yeah, I know to some extent. I cannot say that I know everything in IFRS. Even after spending 30 years, I don't know everything. I know many things, but I don't know everything. Reason being that there are so many standards which I have never worked with. I have the knowledge, but that is the bookish knowledge, theoretical knowledge. I mean, the real enjoyment you come when you see things in application. But there are many things which I did not have a chance to see them in application because I never worked in those industries. For example, IS 41, agriculture. I never worked in any company where IS 41 was applied. So I never applied IS 41 in my life. I have read it. I have good knowledge, but academic knowledge, no practical experience with IS 41. IS 20, government grants. Government grants, it works in government departments or probably some non-governmental organizations, maybe some NGOs or maybe charity organizations or budget organizations. I never worked them. So I have never seen IS 20 working in my life. I don't think anyone has applied everything. It's not possible, okay? I mean, you work, I cannot say that in my career, I worked in every type of thing, starting from agriculture, going towards everything. No, it's not possible. So why I'm explaining you this thing, that even though I do not have a very solid knowledge of everything, even after spending 30 years, but what I have is conceptual framework, understanding. So if you come to me and you say, let me say like this, we are 22 to 23 people sitting here today in this meeting from different countries, Mauritius, and somebody saying Egypt, Mauritius, Zambia, Gambia, Malaysia, Turkey, UK, I don't know. If I tell you that in my room, if I drop this pen, it does not go down, it will go up. How many of you will believe this thing? You say, no, Mr. Ali, it is not possible. If you drop the pen, it should go down. It will not go up. I say, do you know where I'm sitting? In my room, it goes down. And you will say, it does not matter wherever you are sitting. If you are on this planet, if you are on this earth, if you drop it down, there is a principle force of gravity. There's a law of force of gravity, and the gravity will bring it down. And therefore, without coming to your room, without seeing where you are sitting, without knowing your conditions, I can tell you it will never come down. It will never go up. It will always come down. So this is you are so confident about it because of your understanding, because somebody told you or somebody taught you the principle or the law of gravity. Now, you come to me and I told you that IS 41 agriculture, I have never applied in my life. You come to me and you say some accounting treatment. And you ask me that, is it possible? And I will say no. Without knowing IS 41 completely, I'm very much sure that what you are telling is not true, because what you are telling is going against conceptual framework. It cannot be possible because conceptual framework will not allow it. So the accounting treatment which you are telling me is actually not in line with conceptual framework. So I will not agree with you. So this is where sometimes we get stuck. I get stuck somewhere in some standard, and then I immediately make a reference because I don't have the proper guidance. Either the standard does not speak about it clearly. I open up the standard and it does not speak clearly, or maybe I do not have the knowledge of that standard. So in that tricky situation, how to get out of that situation, I make a reference to conceptual framework and I say that, let me see if conceptual framework allows this accounting treatment or not. So you come and say, Ali, you just said that you never applied IS 41, so you might not know it. I say, it's true, I did not apply IS 41, but I know conceptual framework. What you are telling me is not against. It's just like you are telling me that you throw the pen, it will go up. It can't go up. I have not been to your room, but I know that there is something called law of gravity. And what you are saying is against the law of gravity. It will not work. Remember, conceptual framework is like the Constitution. Now, you in your country, you've got constitution, you've got laws. Laws are different. You've got labor law, custom law, immigration law, criminal law, civil law, different types of laws you have, okay? All of these laws are standing on one platform, which is called the constitution of the country. And you cannot tell me that there is a law which is against the constitution. I say, no, it's not possible. So you tell me that there is a law which is, law, and there is some section 741.B.2, I don't know. But what you are telling me, this section, this is going against the constitution of the country, so I don't agree with this thing. I think you are making a mistake. Let's go back and read it again. So a good knowledge of conceptual framework will actually help you in a lot of real life situations and as well as exam situations. Then that when you go to exam, you probably are seeing a scenario which is not very much familiar to you, and you have not seen it before, or you have not read it before, or you probably have forgotten, whatever. Immediately make a reference to conceptual framework and see that is it following the qualitative characteristics given by the conceptual framework? Is it following the quantitative principles, characteristics given by the conceptual framework? Is it following the conventions like accrual basis, conservatism, consistency, materiality? Are we following all of them? So, this is not, when you say consistency or when you say conservatism, so it's not just, it applies in all of the standards. You say, okay, I have to measurement basis of assets and liabilities. Even when you do IFRS 16, oh, I've got right, now I'm going to a complex micro level object. Oh, let's talk about IFRS 16, sale and leaseback of asset, right to return and right to transfer. Which part of the conceptual framework does it refer to? Or in IFRS 15, right to refund, a customer, actually, I sold some goods to a customer for $100, and there is a possibility that the customer might return back goods worth of $5. So it means that he has a right to refund. So I should book my sales to $95. And I would say that my receivable is 100. This is my debit. And I would say credit my revenue 95 and credit right to refund $5. Why I'm doing it? I'm doing it because conservatism. It told me, conceptual framework told me that income should never be overstated. If I put my revenue as 100, I'm overstating my income. I know that 100 I sold, 5 has a possibility of coming back. So being prudent, conservatism and prudence, being prudent, I should not be telling everyone my revenue is 100 because there is a possibility that 5 might come back. So being prudent means that show your revenue to 95. So the conceptual framework, prudence concept. So when you say that why IFRS 15 told us that show revenue at 95, do I have to remember this by heart? No, you don't have to remember this by heart. You have to understand it, that this is the result of the guidance given in the conceptual framework about prudence, which means that incomes and assets are never overstated. You have to estimate conservatively, being prudent. So this is like application of conceptual framework here. So when you came to me and you said that, Mr. Ali, $100 worth of good I sold, and there is a possibility that customer might return back 5. So if he returns back 5, he has not returned back yet, but there is a possibility. So what should I do? Should I record my sales at 100 or should I record my sales at 95? I don't know IFRS 15. But I know conceptual framework. That conceptual framework told me that income should not be overstated. So if I have to choose 195, I'll say go for 95. So this is, the application of conceptual framework. So many times it will happen, and especially when I said in the beginning, you've got a very little time, and it is not enough to go through in detail to all of these standards. And there is a possibility that you will try your best, but still there will be some knowledge gaps. So how those knowledge gaps will be covered? How to overcome those, weaknesses or challenges with those knowledge gaps? Conceptual framework will help you that. So please pay real attention to this conceptual. This is all theoretical thing. And sometimes students say, oh, the teacher is just speaking and speaking and speaking. Why should I listen to him? No, you have to. Because when you will go through this conceptual framework in detail from my lectures and from the notes and from the book, wherever, you will develop the understanding, because it will tell you the objective of financial reporting. What is the objective of financial reporting? Application of IFRS 15 is not my religious duty. So, I mean, why should I apply IFRS 15? Or what is the purpose of making these financial reports? So understand the purpose of, so sometimes students, they come in and they say that, okay, I've got an option. Show asset, because IAS 16 or IAS 40 or IAS 16, it says you can show assets at cost model and you can show assets at revaluation model. Okay, both are applied. You have learned this thing from your FR, F7. IAS 16, initial recognition of asset is cost model. Subsequent recognition is either cost model or revaluation model. Which one should I follow? Okay, which one you should follow? So there is an asset which was purchased for 1 million. It had some depreciation in year 1, depreciation in year 2, depreciation in year 3, and it is 700 the book value. So according to cost model, it is 700. If you go to revaluation model, this is the fair value, this is the market value. You check the market value, this is 1.1 million. Now, IAS 16 says choose any one of them. And you can show both of them. Both are correct. You can go with cost model and you can go with revaluation model. So usually what you do, you follow your accounting policy. What is given in the company's accounting policy? If the company's accounting policy says that go for cost model, you will go for cost model. Of course. But the point is that let's suppose that you have to make accounting policy. What you should do now? If you are the one to decide on the accounting policy. So my purpose is not only to follow IAS 16, actually, I tell you. I don't care about IFRS or I don't care about this conceptual framework. What I care most about is that I have to report to the shareholders and to the other stakeholders, primary stakeholders who are the investors. So when I'm reporting to them, my report should not put me in an embarrassing situation. If I go to my shareholder and say that the value of asset is 700, and he will say, Ali, why it is 700? I know such type of assets are more than 1 million in the market. I say, you know what? I'm telling you 700 because if I see IAS 16, it says cost model, and cost model means initial cost minus depreciation. It comes out to be 700. He does not know IFRS. He's a shareholder, or he does not know what is conceptual framework and depreciation method. He says that I only know one thing. There is an asset which is for 1100, and you are telling me that it is 700. Do you think you are rightly reporting? Do you think you are rightly reporting? Answer is no. Because I'm going to you and I'm telling you, you've got an asset for 700, whereas you know that the market value of the asset is 1100. So in such a situation, what you should do, you should be such assets, you should be presented on revaluation model, not on the cost model, because ultimate objective is to provide information, to report to the, to the stakeholders. And when you report to them, you should give them true and fair view, true and fair view. So what does that mean? It means that the bigger assets, which have more value, should be done on revaluation model. The smaller assets, because when you apply revaluation model, it has a cost. Because you need to hire some third party agency, the revaluation agents, and you have to pay them some money, and they will find out the valuation, fair value, and they will give you. So that is a process which takes time and money. And we spend this time and money for bigger assets where there are material differences. But if you start talking about a notebook, do you want to follow revaluation model for notebooks or furnitures? Answer is no, because it will not make much difference. The numbers, because in my book value, the notebook, for example, is 300. In the market, it would be 400. So there's $100 difference, let's suppose. To pay that $100 difference, I will hire someone and give them $5,000 cost benefit analysis. This is also given in conceptual framework. This is also conceptual framework that you have to give the true and fair view, but at the same time, you have to see that what are the cost benefit analysis of that information. So this is why IAS 16 gives you two options. It says either do the cost model for such little assets, and which are the bigger assets, go for the revaluation model. So anyways, when you understand conceptual framework, it tells you the objective and the purpose of preparation of financial statements. And then when you start giving your answers, or managing the situations, you have that frame of mind. It is not only about calculating the numbers. It is about speaking like a financial reporting person. It is about the person who has the correct frame of mind, which is applied throughout in the preparation of the financial statements, your approach. And this is which ultimately you will say it is qualitative characteristics. Okay. Anyways, so it is very important section. Ethics, very important, very, very important. Revenue, it is one of the most important standards. I always tell to my students that if you ask me that, name 3 important standards for SBR. Among those 3, one is always revenue. And if you go back to, and this is what I was telling to my students in previous session as well. So some of you people who are part of the group after June session, because the June exams were on 8th of June or something like this. So if you go back to your WhatsApp group on 7-8 June, you will see students were saying that almost 20 or 25% of was coming from IFRS 15 this time also. So IFRS 15 is very important standard. The next one which you see is 28 lessons, which is huge. It is non-current assets, but this is not actually one standard. Here you will see many of them. You will go for IAS 16, 40, 38, 23, 36, everything, impairment, borrowing cost, tangible, intangible, investment property, everything is inside. So you've got quite a lot of content, and this is the content which I say approximately 70 hours you have. Non-current assets will continue, borrowing cost, government grants, and so on. Then employee benefits, important standard, move on. Anyways, this is the course page you've got, and somebody asked me where are the notes. You will find notes under each standard. So IAS 41 notes, then you have IAS 23 study notes, borrowing cost, IAS 20 study notes. So notes are given. IFRS 13 fair value study notes. You will find notes for every standard. Okay, so you don't need to go back. This is like 36, IAS 36, maybe 3 pages. You go to the book, it is 10 pages. Read 3 pages from here, that should be enough. Okay, study notes for IAS 40, maybe 2 to 3 pages will be enough. But you go to the book again, 10 to 12 pages. So read these notes. Any questions until here? This is about, again, I'm going through, I have not started the exam structure. I will come back in a moment to exam structure. You have any question until here, please ask. I'm just trying to emphasize, first part I emphasize on this knowledge of IFRS. The second, I'm telling you about within the syllabus areas, how to handle or tackle. We still have to talk about the exam structure, exam approach, important standards, because there are many standards. You will go through all of them, but still you need to have a special focus on some 10 important standards, which I will tell you. And your 70% of the exam will be from those 10 or 11 standards. So that is very important part. Any questions until here you have, please ask me. Okay, now I'm going to the second part of this presentation. Okay, somebody asked one thing. Before I move on, let me answer this question because this is a very valid question. The question is, what would you advise between practicing a great variety of questions from different sources or doing the same questions repeatedly? It's a very interesting question. And it has two different answers. Sometimes I will tell you go west, sometimes I will tell you go east, depending on the paper. If you are doing a paper like AFM, Advanced Financial Management, which is a complex technical paper and which is difficult as well, and it has a very long and complex calculations. Calculations are very long and very complex. So in this case, I would say that you pick up, for example, 15 good questions and do them 2 times. Repeat the question again, because doing it 1 time will not make you master the skill of producing this type of calculation. You have to do it twice to become skillful. So I would say in AFM, if you have to do total, you say, oh, I've got 30 hours, and in 30 hours, I can do 30 questions. So I would say pick up 15 and do them twice. This is my advice for AFM. If you come to SBR, it does not have very complex calculations at all. It does not have very difficult calculations, nothing. Calculation part is hardly 30%. 70% is discussion around the scenario. And you need to see, the more scenarios you see, and the more information you will have, or you will become familiar with different situations and how to handle those situations. So in SBR, I would suggest that pick up 30 questions and do them once. So that you know, because if you do it once, you will remember. Yes, I remember there was a scenario situation like this, how to deal with the football players. Can we treat them as intangible asset or not? How to treat the ticketing rights. You have got the rights to sell the tickets. Can I call it these rights as my tangible asset or not? I've got a stadium. Is it my tangible asset or not? I'm creating some medicine in partnership with some other company. And after completing this research process, I will transfer, they will have the right and I will get the royalties. Should I treat it as my asset or not? Do I have the control or not? So the more scenarios you will see, the more comfortable you will become. So for AFM type of questions, which require complex calculations, and you need to be skillful, fast, and confident in producing this calculation again in exam within the time, do 15 questions 2 times. In case of SBR type of exam, where there are every time a different scenario, because here the scenarios are very repetitive, by the way. Here the scenarios are unique, and you are not required to produce some complex calculations. All you need to do is to understand the scenario and explain it in the best possible way. So let me tell you, because you asked this question, I was actually going to discuss it little later, but it is very much related to your question, so I speak here. SBR this is in-depth knowledge. AFM is in-depth knowledge of the subject areas. What are the subject areas? Risk management, in-depth calculation of that. Investment appraisal, in-depth calculation of that. SBR is not very deep. SBR is not very deep knowledge. So you don't find a lot of depth in knowledge related to these standards. So if I say IFRS 16 leases or IFRS 9, you are not going 100% deep. You are only going 15% knowledge from the standard. It's like in the shallow water. But what is happening that it has huge breadth. It's very wide. It's not deep, it's very wide. What do I mean by very wide? One question, if you go to my lecture video from IFRS 9, you will find that there is a question video, which is for 8 marks. So there is, and that is an exam question, 8 marks question. And this one 8 marks question, which is like half a page of scenario. That's all. It says 8 marks. This one question would require you, it requires a discussion of IS2, IS 37, IS 16, and IFRS 9. So imagine that this one scenario is involving discussion from these 4 different standards for 8 marks. So it cannot be very deep discussion. It will be just 2 or 3 lines on this, 2 or 3 lines on this, 2 or 3 lines on this, and 2 or 3 lines on this. So it means that you are not going very deep into one standard, because 4 standards are being tested for 8 marks. So each standard is being tested for only 2 marks here. So how can it be deep? So, and therefore, I say that because when you read the question, you would say, oh, I understand this is a topic from, IFRS 9. And this is and it also involves IS 16. So most students would think that this particular question or this particular scenario involves a discussion of these 2 standards. But then when you go into detail, you realize that, oh, IS2 is also there. And oh, IS 37 is also there. So if you go to exam and discuss these 2, so it means that out of 8, 4 marks are gone. Remaining 4 marks are being touched. And out of these 4 marks, if you do your best, you will get 3. So when you come out of exam, you say, oh, I did that question for 8 marks, but you're actually getting only 3 out of 8, which is not 50%, which is less than 50%. So this question will not help you in passing if you make a discussion around these 2 standards. So therefore, the question which Sarah asked this question, and answer is that for SBR, I don't think that you have to do it repeatedly again and again. Do it 30 questions one time. Yes, if you find that there is some discussion or there is some explanation which is complex, that particular part you can read it twice so that you can remember it or keep it in mind. Otherwise, it is better to do more scenarios. Come back to this thing. So this is, I come back to slide 1. We are finished with 1 hour and 6 minutes. I have been speaking for 1 hour and 6 minutes, which makes it 66 minutes. And I've come back to slide number 1 again. Lucky you people. Key syllabus areas, ethics, financial reporting framework, all of the standards, reporting financial performance of range of entities, financial statements of group entities, and interpretation of financial statements, impact of changes and potential changes in accounting regulation, and so on. Exam structure, section A, 2 questions. First question will be 30 marks. Second question is for 20 marks. Section B is 25. So you have 4 questions in exam. One is with 30, second is with 20. This is section A, then you have section B, and you have section C, okay? 25. Section A consists of 2 scenario-based questions. The first question will be based on the financial state. Remember that this makes your life easy. What will come in section A, first question is about consolidation. 30-mark question, which is your question number 1, which is for 30 marks, and this is for consolidation. So at least you know that this is one area which will surely be tested in exam. Now, you don't know IFRS 2 will come or not, IS 19 will come or not, maybe IFRS 9 will come or not, you don't know. But consolidation at least will come. So all of you people should focus at mastering in consolidation, okay? And that's why if you see my lectures on consolidation, there are approximately 20 to 25 lectures only on consolidation, doing a lot of practice questions, because I know that this is going to be your first question in exam, and this has maximum marks. So I don't know what else will come or not, at least this will come. So I should be ready for this thing. Okay. Second question, which is worth 20 marks. It will require to consider the reporting implications and the ethical implications of specific events in a context. So here you will find out some scenario, some accounting treatment related to some scenario. And ethics will also be involved. So ethics will also be tested. So a second thing, so ethics is not for 20 marks. Ethics will be 6 to 8 marks, but at least it will be there. So I know for sure 30 marks for consolidation plus 6 to 8 marks for ethics. So I can now figure out, you have to be think objectively that what is happening. So if I'm good in these two things, so at least I'm talking about 35% of the exam is covered. Section B will of course contain 2 questions, 25 marks each. Usually what happens that there is a scenario and either the accounting treatment was not done correctly. I mean, either it was done incorrectly or it was missed out. You have to suggest structure of the question will remain very much similar. There is the biggest challenge which students they face here. They say that, sir, I know the question, I know the standard, but I find it very difficult to write it. The drafting skills, how to, draft or write down my answer. Now, this is actually a very, very, very simple technique you have to follow. In some of my lectures, I have explained it, and I think I have a separate lecture as well on this thing. I will point you out, people, to refer to that, how to draft your answer. So it has a very specific style. If you follow that style, that model or that template of writing, so it will apply in most of the scenario. In most situations, it will apply. Drafting response, which you think is a challenge, is actually not really very difficult. It always has 3 steps. Sometimes 4th step can also come, but mostly it is 3. Here you make a reference to the standard. Here you make reference to situation. And here you provide calculations and discussion or conclusion. What does that mean? In a very short 3 minutes, I will tell you, so that because I know that some curiosity is here, because a lot of people, they find it very challenging how to write answer. See, a question will come from IFRS 9 financial instrument. Now, that is a long standard. They are not going to test. They tell you that Alpha company issued some bonds, or Alpha company purchased some bonds, or Alpha company, the parent, gave some loan to a subsidiary company B, whatever it is IFRS 9. So the first line I will say that I will not start like Alpha company or scenario. I will start my sentence with IFRS 9. I will say IFRS 9 financial instrument deals with financial assets and financial liabilities. Financial assets and financial liabilities. Now, because I know that the question is about financial asset, so I don't want to discuss or talk about liabilities more. I will just mention it one time, financial liabilities. I will say IFRS 9 financial instrument deals with the measurement and recognition of financial assets and financial liabilities. And then I will speak financial assets. Financial assets are classified into 3 categories: financial assets at amortized cost, financial assets at through profit and loss, financial assets through other comprehensive income. This is the first paragraph, 3-4 lines. Second paragraph, reference to scenario. Now, in this particular scenario, not all of the financial assets are being discussed. The situation is about an asset which is amortized cost. We already have, because we know the standard. So when we read it, we know that this particular financial instrument is a financial asset at amortized cost. I have classified it in my mind because I know the subject. So second paragraph, I'll start with the scenario. And I'll say that financial assets held at amortized cost are those assets which meet the 2 criteria. Number 1 is the business model test, and number 2 is the contractual cash flows, right to the contractual cash flows, or SPPI, solely payments of principal and interest. And then I explain business model means this and SPPI means this. So here what happened? I mentioned the 3 of them. Here, this is the one I want to discuss. Here, I only make discussion for this particular one. What is the measurement and recognition criteria for this? And these 2 paragraphs are only academic. Academic. I have not spoken the word Alpha company so far. So far, I have not spoken the word Alpha company. First, I told that assets and liabilities, and assets are 3 kinds. And then within those three, only one is being discussed. And that one which is discussed, that one I will start giving the measurement recognition criteria for this one. That this is the measurement, this is the recognition criteria. And then part three, here I talk about the scenario. Now I will say Alpha, the bonds which have been issued by Alpha company, they meet the two criterias. They meet the two criterias of amortized cost being SPPI and the business model test. And therefore we should measure them at amortized cost and show them at whatever. And then I will start making the calculation. So if I calculate how much it goes to P&L, what goes to the balance sheet, how to calculate the amortized cost, and I do discussion and I close. This same approach should be used in almost all of the questions in SBR, except consolidation and ethics. Ethics and consolidation, you leave other. All other questions, they mostly will have the same approach. Same approach. You need to practice it. Number one, make reference to the standard. Number two, that part of standard which is involved in scenario, because not entire standard is in the scenario. That part of the standard which is in scenario, talk about that part. If it is about equity instrument, then you start talking about equity instrument in second paragraph. What is the criteria for equity instrument, measurement and recognition principles for equity? Don't talk anything else in second paragraph. Okay, second paragraph will only discuss about that particular instrument which is being there. Either it is amortized cost, whether it is equity instrument, maybe it is financial liability, whatever. And then the third paragraph, you will perform calculations. This is about the scenario. You make calculations, you talk about accounting treatment, what goes to P&L, what goes to SOFP, and do discussion and conclusion. So 3 steps, very easy. Okay. Knowledge from FR paper, syllabus, depth versus breadth. I told you, it's not testing your knowledge in deep. It's about breadth. So you cannot skip any standard. This is what it means. When I say that it is breadth, it means that anything can be tested. And actually they will test a lot of standard. They will test a lot of standards because one scenario can involve 3-4 standards. Relationship between different standards and conceptual framework. I explained this thing that when you are talking about a standard, sometimes you have to make reference to the conceptual framework, that this is what conceptual framework guides us. For example, when you will speak about a lot of time when questions come from IAS 16 assets or IFRS 15 revenue. So they talk about the recognition or they talk about the measurement. So IFRS 15 revenue, when revenue should be recorded, conceptual framework tells us that the measurement criteria or the recognition criteria for revenue is when control is being passed. So you have to make reference for here, you need strong academic knowledge. Please do not, like I said it in the very beginning, you would be very cruel with you if you have a desire to pass this exam. If you have a desire to pass this exam, you will be very cruel with you. You should study this subject as getting knowledge for financial reporting. Passing will come automatically. Just like, some people, it's not my thing. I mean, it's not my saying, but a lot of people, I heard sometime you watch in social media or somewhere, you listen to someone, they say, in business, don't run after the money. You bring people solution or you make some good product and money will follow you. Don't run after the money, something like these type of statements. So I say that don't run after passing the exam. Run after knowing the subject. Pass, you will automatically, it will be there. Passing is, if you make passing your objective, it is not a good objective. Knowing the subject is the good objective. Passing is just the outcome of your knowledge, okay? Question scenarios include multiple standards, cover entire syllabus, focus on the following standard. This is important. IS 12 taxation, especially deferred tax. IS 19 employee benefit, 36 impairment, 37 provisions. You will be surprised because 2 standards which you took very casually in financial reporting were provision and intangible assets. Intangible assets and provisions, when you did your last exam in financial reporting, that was ACCA FR. And what you had experienced from FR, that, oh, these are the two very light subjects. You took them very lightly. I know that. But here, these are the most important standards. If you ask me, what are the 5 most important standards for SBR? I would say IFRS 15. Okay, let me put it here. It will come here. I mean, I made a list, but the 5 most important one: 37, provisions; 38, intangibles, so important; IFRS 9 and IFRS 15. And then I can make a choice between others. But I cannot go to exam, impairment. Don't go to exam, without these 3. 36, 37, 38, and 15 and 9. These are my first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 choice. And then the other ones. So IS 12 deferred tax, IS 10 events after the reporting period is a very short standard, but very frequently tested. Because they will say that some accounting treatment happened after the books were closed, after the reporting date, and you have to find out what to do. IS 40 investment property is there, it's good, but not really very important. I don't know why did I put it in the list. I can even remove it. IFRS 2, share-based payment, very important. Employee benefit, you have not done these 2, okay? So these 2 standards are totally new for you. 19 and IS 19 were not in FR, and IFRS 2 share-based payment, both are important. 16, 15, 9. And then, of course, the standards which deal with the consolidation. Those are your IFRS 3, IFRS 10, IFRS 11, okay? So these are the standards where you should be focusing more. And I think that under normal circumstances, if some surprise does not happen, if some very abnormal situation does not happen, maybe your 90% of the exam is from here. 90% of exam will be here, not 80%, not 70%. 90% of the exam will be here. It is also possible that all of the exam is from here. You may not get EPS. You may not get government grant. You may not get agriculture. So these are the areas. I don't ask you to not to read other things. You have to cover other things as well, but a special focus on this list. And even if within this list, special focus on 36, 37, 38, 15, 9, and of course, consolidation is a must. So this is my choice of standards for SBR. Understanding the requirement, application impact on FS, very important. You have to tell that when you will apply this thing, what will happen to income statement, what will be debited. Income statement will be debited by 2 million and retained earnings will be credited by 2 million. So end of the day, your objective is to tell that within this scenario, if I am going to make a correction in the previously wrong accounting treatment, or if I'm going to suggest an accounting treatment, how it is going to impact my financial statements. You have to conclude that what will happen to income statement, what will happen to statement of financial position. Writing skills, drafting response, time management, technical articles, please read. We have on-site technical articles free. These are linked with ACCA website. So read technical articles. You should be reading 1 technical article every week. Okay. It will, again, like I said, that developing the mindset, that frame of mind of a financial reporting person. Examiner report, extremely important, but this should be done end of August. We will do it end of August, but very, very, very important. You see, most of all, in our real life as well, we make or repeat similar types of mistakes. We do the same blunders, we do the same stupid things, we do the same mistakes. Most of us, me, you, everyone. Common mistakes are common mistakes. So examiner report, at least it tells you that what are the common mistakes of students. So you at least become careful. Okay, I will not do this. So you become aware of 10 stupid things which others have done before you. And there is a big possibility that you will also repeat it. Not that you and I, we are stupid. It is just like we are tempted or we have an inclination or a behavior. Most people, they go to that side. So at least this is a warning sign. So examiner reports are extremely important before exam, because it will tell me when I'm going to exam that those who just did exam 3 months before in the month of June, what common mistakes they did. So at least I should, protect myself from repeating those things. Current issues, ethical. Now this is a subject matter comes in discussion. We will keep it for the next time in what is integrity, objectivity, and so on. As far as your orientation and introduction about this course, syllabus, exam preparation is concerned, this is all I had to say today. I just want to close this discussion by focusing on two things. Number one, SBR is much more than just an exam. If I had to choose SBR and total ACCA, I will say just one SBR is enough for me for the rest of my life. Not SBR, actually it is IFRS. So understand the importance of this subject for your professional career. Number two, you have to be disciplined and organized, giving 15 hours per week. And while doing the practice questions, keeping this thing with you, because don't master laziness. I know that a lot of students, oh, I did a lot of practice. I said, yes, you mastered a lot of laziness, because every time a question which required you to complete it in 10 minutes, you were laying on your desk doing it in 15 minutes. So you are actually training your mind to go slow. Then how do you expect to become fast on the exam day? On exam day, you will also be slow. And then you will come out of the exam and you will say that I could not complete exam. Those of you people who were in the WhatsApp group 10, 15 days ago, when this June exam sessions were done, you might have witnessed these comments from our students from which went to June. Some of them said, I did 80% of the exam and I just left last 20 marks of the question. I remember somebody even wrote, he said that I felt so bad because I knew this question, but I did not have time. Imagine there's a 20-mark question, you knew it and you could not do it because you did not have time. Why? Because you were too slow. So when you are practicing the questions, try to practice them fast. So it's not only about practicing, it's about practicing fast. Okay. So keep these things in mind and please cover this from your this section 1, which is I'm not going to go through section 1. I've got everything here. And section 2 also. You will do these 2 sections yourself. When you will join me next time, I will do revenue, and what my style will be. If you see, I have pointed out some important standards. So I'm not going to do revision of all of the standards, but I will do some quick revision of the important standards and the complex areas in the important standards. For example, IFRS 15 has one complexity, which is called contract modification. So some students, they say, oh, what is contract modification? We will discuss contract modification next time. So similarly, the technical, the difficult parts of the important standards, we will discuss together. We have a 2-hour session, 30 minutes of discussion, 1.5 hours of doing practice question. Okay, this is our schedule. Half an hour of discussion, 1.5 hour of doing practice question, practicing what, discussing what, difficult part of complex standards, not everything, because otherwise you've got everything here. That's all for today. Actually, quite a lot. You've got any questions, please ask. But please come prepared.